Today's episode is a really fun one. I sat down with Miranda Deaton. She's the wildly creative force behind Velvet Outlaw and Velvet Out Paws. She went from working on capital murder cases to building a brand full of rhinestones and fringe and unapologetic self expression. So, we're talking about burnout and unexpected pivots and what it's really like to build a business that just feels so aligned with who you intrinsically are, not just what sells, not just what your customers want, but what you really want your business to look like for you. So Miranda gets really honest about kind of that messy middle of entrepreneurship and finding her path and her way through what the customer was telling her that they wanted versus what she really wanted to be building. So I have no doubt you're going to leave this conversation feeling seen, inspired, and ready to just check in with your own creative gut. So let's get into the chat. Real quick, I need to tell you about something that's been a total game changer for so many of my clients and students. If you've been trying to grow unfair, but your orders have been slow, your market results have been less than desirable, or you're just not getting discovered the way that you know you should, this is for you. So I created a free workshop called the Fair Success Blueprint Workshop, and I teach you the exact framework that my students have used to land brand new retailers, have their best fair markets ever, and even grow their wholesale revenue by over 50% or more compared to last year. We've had some that have grown upwards of up 500% to last year. Seriously, this is the strategy that is working right now on the Fair platform. In under 45 minutes, I walk you through what buyers are actually looking for on Fair right now, why most brands stay invisible and how to fix it, and a proven 3-step strategy to stand out to sell more on Fair without adding 100 new SKUs or even rewriting your entire page. So if you're ready to finally turn Fair into a consistent, high-performing sales channel, head to kristenfishercoaching.com/fair blueprint or click the link in the show notes. You can watch it right away. You can take notes and get your exact strategy to start showing up like the brand that your dream retailers are already looking for. Hey, Miranda, I'm so excited to have you here today. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
This is going to be a fun chat. You had posted something on Instagram like, hey, I am trying to get some more visibility. Does anybody know any podcasts I could be on? And I was like, hey, you want to be on mine? So that's how we got here. And you have such a cool background and a cool story. So I think the stuff you're going to share today is going to be really, really helpful for people listening. So excited for that conversation. So can you just share a little bit about who you are and your background?
Absolutely. My name is Miranda, and I am the owner of 2 businesses, one on accident. The first being Velvet Outlaw, which is a Kentucky-based slow fashion business, and I specialize in rhinestone suits and upcycled clothing. And then the second business, which was my accidental business, and I'm sure we'll get into that, is called Velvet Out Paws. And so that is the pet side of the business, and we do fringe pet bandanas.
Which is just the coolest thing. Your brand is so much fun. And every time I come across your brand on my feed, it just makes me so happy. It's colorful and bright. And I feel like it's just so authentically you. Like you have such a clear point of view. So I'd love to hear, I know a little bit about your background, but I'd love to hear how Velvet Outlaw, because that was first, right? How that really came about. Like what prompted you to do that and really make a business out of it?
Yes. So what I feel like we also probably want to talk about is what I did before Velvet Outlaw.
Yeah.
Which doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the name Velvet Outlaw, even though so many people could draw so many correlations between those things. But in getting to Velvet Outlaw, a lot of why I decided to start my own business was because I was experiencing extreme burnout in my previous career. And so what I was doing prior to Velvet Outlaw was working as a contractor with the public defender's office on capital murder cases. So any cases that would have a sentencing result of the death penalty. And so that's heavy. That's heavy work. And I think now what I do with rhinestones and fringe couldn't be more opposite. And I really love it.
Hard pivot.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, in a way, I've always been a creative person. I've always had some kind of side hustle, earrings, art, painting. And so this was just natural for me to do. But I think I needed to go through having a career that was so separate from the art world in order to be ready for
Hmm.
having a career that is in the business and art space currently.
Yeah. So was there something, I mean, you expressed that you had some burnout in that role. Was there something specifically that prompted you to start exploring your creative side more? Or did you like hard launch into a business? How did that transition from capital murder to suit sequins and fringe happen? What did that look
Yeah.
like?
It looked like me almost dying from trying to work 3 full-time jobs, one being the business, one being the emergency psych ward at the hospital during COVID, and then the other being capital murder cases. At some point, I was just like, I can't do all 3 of these things. No one should be working 3 full-time
Mhm.
jobs, especially with one being overnight. And ultimately, I just had to make a decision. Am I ready to step away from working on these cases, working in this career that I had fought so hard to be in and given up so much of my life in order to work with people who are experiencing the injustice system? And eventually, I think COVID changed a lot for everybody and it changed a lot for me. And I was like, this feels right. This feels like the right time for me to pivot into Velvet Outlaw. I can always go back to capital murder cases. I
Yeah.
have that skill. It's not a skill that everybody has. There are not a lot of jobs in that space, but once you're in it, you're kind of in it for life. You can't really get out of it. And so, yeah, COVID and just I needed a heartbreak. It had been 10 years and that was a long time. And I just couldn't see myself. I was 30 when I started Velvet Outlaw, and I was like, so I'm supposed to do this hard career for 30 more years? Like, I couldn't see myself
Yeah.
doing it. I wasn't really making any money. So I figured, well, why don't I just not make a lot of money for myself for a little bit and see what I can do with Velvet Outlaw?
Yeah. Okay. So it was really like an urgent need from a personal standpoint. It wasn't like, okay, the business like took off so much that you had to make a choice, or was it kind of like both things were happening at the same time?
I think it was both things at the
Yeah.
same time. I mean, the
Cool.
business was taking off in the sense that I was ready to commit to.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was necessarily like taking off financially, but my creative pull was way stronger towards that than it was towards the other.
Yeah.
And so I think I've always been a person that's listened to my intuition and my instinct, and it was screaming at me that it was time.
Yeah. No, I'm happy you answered that and you were open to me asking that, or maybe you weren't open. I just
Mhm.
asked it anyway and you answered it honestly. Now that I think like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I felt comfortable asking you that. And the reason I did is because, everybody has their own path with like leaving one job and going into another career path or starting their own business and going fully in that. And for me, I had a similar thing coming out of COVID where I was like, I can't keep being this corporate buyer and also having my business. It just like got to the point where I couldn't handle both. And so I had to make the decision similar to you. I was not helping people in the injustice system. I was making clothes, but I had to make that decision too. And so a lot of people have asked, like, well, how do you know? How do you know when it's time? Like, do you have to have a certain amount of money in your bank account or a certain profit level? And it's like sometimes, yeah, you got to make sure you can take care of yourself, but also you expressed it was your creative pool. And I think that is something that we just intuitively know and need to be tapping into because that is the like gut instinct that guides you. And you have to be able to listen to that, especially when you have your own business, because otherwise, if you're not listening to it, you can just go down so many different paths. So I'm curious. Okay, one more question on this. Because you had said, okay, so that past 10 years in that career really set you up for having this business. And because I'm so curious, because they are so different, is there something from
Mhm.
your experience that carried through to your business now that you're like, I am a better business owner because of that? Or this is the thing that prepared me. That was the thing that prepared me for having a business, as much as one can be prepared for running your own business.
I think two things. The first being empathy.
Mhm.
I think you can't do the work that I did without having an extreme amount of empathy. And I think that that translates really well into the type of business that I have, especially since clothing and especially clothing plus size bodies, that requires a great amount of empathy and compassion and understanding and why clothing is so important to so many people. It's an external representation of how you feel on the inside. And at least that's how I approach clothing. And I think having that lens and thinking about each piece that I make, and understanding that it's more than just a shirt, it's more than just a suit. That through line, I think has been really special for Velvet Outlaw. And I think when people say like, "Oh, I can see you in the business," that's what that means. Like that's my
Mhm.
empathy coming through and
Mhm.
showing that to other people. And
Yeah.
then the other side of it is less exciting. And that's the logistics of the business. Like spreadsheets for days, just like understanding, like communication, working with people, deadlines, like all of that. The less, aesthetic side of the business.
Yeah. But that's
I
like,
really learned that.
yeah, I mean, that's the foundation of it, really. Like, you have to have that side. You have to have the creative and the analytical side. You don't have to be an amazing numbers person, but
Mhm.
you have to be willing to open up a spreadsheet and put some numbers in there to make better decisions. So
Mhm.
I think that
Yeah.
that's really cool to see how that translated. And honestly, it's so beautiful to hear you articulate that the empathy is what is translating into your brand now, because I can absolutely see that just from, the outside seat that I'm sitting in on Instagram, like liking your content. Like I can see that on the other side of it. So I think that that's just a really beautiful through line, like you had called it, to have that as your foundation. So as you've been building this business out, and then we'll get to, okay, you have now a pet business also.
Mhm.
How did you, once you stepped away and you were fully in your business, what did that growth path look like for you? What was your kind of first step whenever you stepped away and you were just like, okay, now I'm going to say in quotes, like I have all this free time now to just work on Velvet Outlaw? Because I found myself when I left corporate, like I have all this time to work on Boku. And then I was like, wait, I don't know what to do whenever I'm not working around the clock. So I'm curious what that transition was like for you.
I think the transition was really positive. I was really excited to literally just be doing one thing.
Mhm.
But it quickly led into me doing too many things because I was so
Okay.
used to just like constantly be churning out product and be doing so many things, like so used to working 80 hours a week that I was like, well, I have to put 80 hours a week into my business, which no one should be working 80 hours a week on anything.
Yeah.
It may be relaxing. I don't know, but that's about it. And so I quickly just started doing too many things. Like
Mhm.
in the nonprofit world, we kind of call it like mission drift. And I just like immediately took a right hand turn into just like making and making and making, but none of it really was what I intentionally set out to do, but it was what was bringing in money.
Mm,
And I was like, well, this has to be the direction then, because this is what's bringing in the money, not the thing that I intentionally set out to do. But if you're not doing what you set out to do, how can you make money if it doesn't exist? And so I was like kind of in that
yeah.
dichotomy of like, okay, well, there's two true things that are existing for me, but one of them isn't my like initial truth. And so I need to pivot
Yeah.
back. And it has taken me almost a full 2.5 years to come back to that point.
Okay.
So,
So let's talk
mhm.
about that. I had a very similar feeling of I filled up the space. I filled up the open space with a lot of things and quickly realized this is not sustainable. So I'm curious, are you willing to share what it was that you were kind of going, a path you were kind of going down before you circled back? If not, we can edit that out.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was just making, I initially set out to make these rhinestone suits. Like
Mhm.
that was the whole plan. Like that's why I was starting this business. And I wasn't making a single rhinestone suit.
Oh,
I maybe made like a few here and there, or like I made a collection for a runway show in Texas, and that was it. And then everything else I was making was like upcycled clothing, which is great. And that is a small piece of what I do now, but it's way more refined. And I just was just making stuff. Like, I don't know who it was for, what it was. In a way, it was smart because I failed a lot and, honed my sewing skills since I'm hand making all of these things.
mhm.
But it wasn't the intent of the business. And so it felt like more like Miranda's craft hour than Velvet Outlaw. And so, that happened for a while. And then the pet business started.
How
And
did
that
that
is
come
its own
about?
secret.
Yeah.
Well, I had all these scrap pieces. And I thought, well, it'd be fun to make my dog a bandana with one, like a fringe bandana. And I was like, okay, it's only like enough if I make it over the collar. Like it can't be a full triangle. So I did that and I put it on my dog. And then everyone was like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing. I was like, okay, I'm listening to the people. I'm using my empathy skills. This is what the people want. And I'm going to make bandanas. And then it quickly got out of control. And then I was like, okay, well, this is taking off. Maybe I should try wholesale. What's wholesale? And then I found you. And I was like, okay, here we go. Now I'm a wholesale business, I guess, which is not how you're supposed to do that.
As
As
a
I've
side note.
learned. Learn from me, y'all. Don't do that. Way more in depth. I should maybe have done this in 5 years. Yeah. So that took over my life.
So
I
what
didn't
did
love
you
it.
you didn't love it? Okay, let's talk about when you found me. You were at that point where you're like, okay, I this is doing well. Let me start selling these to stores. So what did that look like? So you enrolled in the Fair Boot Camp last summer, 2024. And what did that look like for you once you got
At
in
that
there?
point,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I had like two or three like local stores that I was already selling my stuff to, but I was running out of scraps to make the bandanas. So then I was like, oh no, I don't have bandanas. I got to figure this out. And so then what it turned into was me buying fabric that was not dead stock, was not sustainable, was not secondhand. I just became like a regular old, I don't know,
Bandana
mass
maker.
production sweatshop of one. Yeah. And so then I had all this product and I was like, okay, I have the product. I need to start selling it to other stores. And so that's when I found you and I was like, okay, I'm at this point. How do I reach out to people? How do I take good photos of this product? How do I price it so it makes sense for wholesale? And then what does that look like moving forward? Which I all learned that and more through doing the boot camp. So
That's awesome. So you learned all of that. You start implementing it and you got a lot of sales, right? Like things started
yeah,
blowing up. So what happened there that got you to the point where you were like, oh my God, I got to pump the brakes on wholesale?
I burnt out so fast and I realized that I hadn't been doing very much Velvet Outlaw stuff,
Mm.
which, so what's also important in this story is that at the same time that I was starting the wholesale journey, I also was in my biggest market year ever, which was last year. I did 24 markets,
Oh my gosh.
which is a lot. It's too many.
That's too many.
And Velvet Out Paws was taking over my life. And so I was like really struggling to manage both. But the pet bandanas were bringing in more money than Velvet Outlaw. And so I was like, well, I have to keep doing this one thing in order to sustain the other, which is not a good business model. And it's not a healthy way to run your life either,
Yeah.
because it was taking over my life. And so then I had to make the decision, okay, am I going to keep doing markets like this? Do I just do less markets? Do I focus on the pet bandanas? Like, what does that look like? And so I made the decision, well, maybe I'll just outsource the production of the bandanas. And then all I have to do is the logistics side. Maybe that will help. Well, that's expensive because I really wanted to use a US based production facility and I wanted it to be in the Midwest. And so what I ended up doing was finding a place in Cincinnati, which is 75 miles from where I live in Louisville. It's a women-owned business and they are a nonprofit. So the margins were going to work out. I just had to figure out where the initial money was going to come from. And so I sent all my stuff there. They made the product. They sent it back to me. And then I had all this made product. And so that kind of worked for a little bit. But then it like started again. And I was like, because I don't have a fashion background and I don't know a lot, I'm still learning. I didn't realize that I was already a whole year behind in the buying time. So I had all this product that no one was buying because everyone else was already in holiday. And I was like, look, it's June. Here's my summer stuff. And they're like, we don't care. And I was like, that's so good. I'm so excited. So yeah, I'm the queen of learning very expensive lessons. That's me.
I mean,
I sure did.
I'm pretty sure that is like anybody that is listening to this. If you have a business, there's at least one really expensive fuck up that's happened. One expensive mistake. So, you're definitely not alone in that. That's unfortunately a big one, but now you know.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting on all that product stills. If anyone wants to buy some bandanas, let me know.
Okay, so the outsourcing worked until it didn't. And you still kind of found yourself in that situation. And at that point, were you like, okay, I need to make a decision with what's going on, what's going to happen for this coming year? Like, do I keep focusing on wholesale? Like, what was that decision? What did that decision process look like last year with how you wanted to approach things differently so that you could structure your business in a way that felt good for you personally and setting the business up, like getting back to your roots of why you really started your brand?
Yeah, I don't know if there was like a magic moment, but I think it was like another one of me being like, okay, what am I feeling more called to right now? Is it the pet stuff or is it Velvet Outlaw? And I still had felt like I never really gave Velvet Outlaw the opportunity that it deserved because I still wasn't really doing what I had set out to do.
Okay.
And so I made the decision. I know I can get like to just focus on Velvet Outlaw because I knew that I had figured out how to do the wholesale thing. Like I had made $25,000 just in the pet bandanas, just starting out in 1 year. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
that's more money than I've ever made on anything in my life. That was my take home salary when I worked at the public defender's office. So it was like, we're doing great. And so I was like, I can pause that. Like you're allowed to stop things. And you taught me that lesson of like, you're allowed to stop things when they're going well. And that's okay. And so I decided to pause all the outreach and that it could organically do whatever it needed to do. Like it still exists. I'm just not hustling so hard every day for it and just bringing it up when it organically feels appropriate and when it works for me and my timeline. Because that was the whole point of starting my own business was I wanted to live a life that worked for me. And it quickly was not working for me. And so we needed to pivot. and I can always go back to it. I think that's the thing that people sometimes forget is like you can stop and start things at any point in time that works for you.
Hmm.
And that's kind of the whole point, at least for me, of having my own business.
Yeah. No, I love that because it is so true. We're the only ones holding ourselves to this invisible standard or this like made up level of perfectionism. It's like no one really cares. They just want what people care about is following a brand that they're excited about. And like they only usually get really excited about it when you as the owner are really excited about and showing up and pouring into it and keeping it going. And so if you don't feel good behind the scenes, that is going to translate. So like your business probably would have suffered ultimately if you had kept going down that path. And it is so important to be able to stop and say like this is not working for me anymore and I'm going to make this change even though things are good. Like it doesn't matter what other people think. Even if it's good, like it doesn't feel good for me right now, so I got to make that change. And so that's really amazing that you were able to do that and get back to what you really wanted Velvet Outlaw to really be. So was that like in the fall last year when you went back to the suit production and really focusing your efforts there?
That was in January of this year.
January. Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I wanted to give it a full calendar year, or I guess a year and a half, really. And I just like cosmically, I
Yeah.
like doing things within the calendar year. It's helpful for my brain, and I'm sure my accountant appreciates it that way too.
Yeah. I really did a number for my account and I was like, maybe I was just thinking fall because that's whenever I made my decision and I aired that podcast, which is I think what you're referencing that you listened to. And I was like, nope, Q4, my Q4 is my biggest season. Like I always did over six figures in Q4, but I just don't want to. So I'm just not going to do it. And I think my accountant was like, what happened in Q4 this year? Yeah. So made some changes there. So I totally get that. So, okay. So you did a whole calendar year. And what has this year looked like for you now that you've shifted and you're getting back to your roots? I mean, we're recording this mid-June. So you're 6 months in almost. How's it
Mhm.
going?
Emotionally great, financially terribly. But I kind of was prepared for that
Okay.
because I knew walking into this year, I was saying goodbye to $25,000.
Hmm.
Like I knew that. So that, that's a lot of money for a one
Yeah.
person business.
Yep.
And so in order to supplement that, or in order to be like, okay, if I'm focusing on the suits, we have to figure out what we're going to do. And honestly, and not doing any markets either. So I said goodbye to 50% of my revenue walking into this year.
Okay.
And we're only down 13%.
That's amazing.
So
So you're not
that's
financially
pretty
terrible.
good.
You're not financially
No,
terrible.
so far.
Don't, okay. All right. So this is a perfect example of what I'm always like screaming at people. The first instinct is to say, like, sales are awful right now, or like the economy's awful and my business isn't doing well. But like I'm not saying only down 13% and like
Yeah.
shedding light on that, but you are only down 13% when you got rid of,
Hmm.
you just said 50% of your revenue for out
Yeah.
came from markets and 25K was in bandanas, which you're not focusing on. So
Hmm.
that's pretty amazing. And I don't know, like,
Yeah.
you know, it just would be interesting to see what your profit number looks like as a comparison to that down 13 because you've shifted things around and you're no longer outsourcing something. Like, I don't know, maybe your profit number isn't even down 13%. I'm just saying that, like, something to look at
Hmm.
to make yourself
Yeah.
even feel better about your numbers, if I had to guess. Just,
Yeah. Well, and my cost per item, or I don't know the terms,
yeah.
the pieces I'm selling are way more expensive than a $30 pet bandana. So
Mhm.
like that has
Yep.
really been a big shift since most of what I'm focusing on now is custom orders for
Mhm.
people's weddings or different ceremonies. And so
Mhm.
the price point of each individual item is significantly higher.
Yeah. That's a big business
And
shift. It takes a different, like, approach to marketing and building your brand. And so you're really in a rebranding or not rebranding, that's not the right term. You're in a kind of like rebuilding year and repositioning your brand. Maybe that's a better word, repositioning year to like reset your audience to saying, okay, wait, this is actually what we're doing. And people are on the ride with you. So, you're definitely going to get there. So what's your kind of plan forward? What do you envision your business looking like if we were talking in, I don't know, 3 or 4 years? What do you want that to be?
Well, I hope that there's still both Velvet Outlaw and Velvet Paws. I'm having space and time away from markets and away from the pet stuff has made me realize, I think, the pieces about it that I do miss and what it could look like. Not necessarily ready to do any of those things this year. But since I'm only in year 3 of the business, I think, years 5 through 8, I feel like those are going to be my big years where I'm finally like I'm in my groove. All of the pieces are aligned. Like I've really honed in on exactly what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. And I've gotten really good at telling myself no. So I'm good at telling everyone else no, but I'm terrible at telling myself no because I just get excited about anything sparkly and shiny and I get distracted. So I can't. I'll be more focused. I've been training myself for the last 3 years about how to be a better business owner because I'm already a creative person, so I don't need training in that. Yeah, but I just hope, we've done so many custom suits that we're just like one of the regular names when it comes to like, oh, where are you going to get your suit for your wedding? And then everyone's like, oh, you get it from Velvet Outlaw. Like that's just
obviously. Yeah, obviously.
Everyone needs a rhinestone suit.
I'm like, where can I wear a rhinestone suit to? Like I need an excuse for one. Maybe I'll get married again.
Anywhere.
We'll renew our vows and I'm getting a rhinestone suit. It's going to happen. I mean, I think it's so important to talk about. It's interesting how you said like telling myself no. And then how you positioned it as like on the creative side, like you want to chase after all the things. And I personally, it's why I really like doing what I do because I mean, I'm a creative person, but I've never had my own brand. Like I'm not creating my own product, I've always been on that buyer side. So I've trained my brain to be like, this is a cool idea, but this is going to make us money, So I have that thread through. And then also this is a cool idea. I don't think it's going to make us a lot of money, but it's really important to the assortment and bringing it in to round it out. And I think that that's the thing to keep for anybody that's a very creative person to keep fine tuning because you don't want to say no to yourself so much and try to be a business owner so much that you like lose that creative fun because that's what makes your brand special. And so leaving room for that I think is important, but maybe not everything needs to be made or see the light of day, like
absolutely.
Yeah. What's your process look like if you're mostly custom now, like what does your process look like whenever you're building or you're designing into these new suits? Like what does that look like for you?
Yeah. I mean, if I'm working with an individual on theirs, not usually, I require them to provide me with either a Pinterest board or some kind of like color swatch inspo, or it can be like, I hate all of these things. I don't want any of this. And that's a fine place to start too.
Yeah.
Because I am going to take a certain amount of like creative freedom in interpreting what it is that they're telling me because it still is something that I am making. And so, so once someone reaches out and they give me their inspo, within a week, they get 3 different drawings or designs based on what they want. And then we go back and forth if necessary on like, I want to move this piece here, that piece there. And then after that initial process, I get started. And then usually it's 4 to 6 weeks, or if they want to push the date out because their event isn't until later, then we can do that too. But
yeah,
it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, but that's fun though. I mean, I think that's a cool way to make something really special or something. for a special event, feel even more special is what I'm trying to say. That's a
Mhm.
cool thing that you're offering to people, and it's bringing you back to people and actually really working with somebody, for that event, which ties back to what you have said that you really love doing. Do you offer any ready to buy purchase or products on your site currently, or did you pull back on all of that?
No, I still have ready to wear items. Those
Yeah, I
are
don't know why I
all
said ready to buy. I'm like, what? I couldn't think of the word. Thank
oh,
you. Ready to wear.
you can wear it and buy it.
Yeah,
Both
true.
of them. Yes, I have that. It's a much smaller selection than what I had previously, and will continue to get smaller as I hopefully sell off what is currently on there, and then it'll hopefully just be slow made items, which I'm using that term as items that are made from a pattern that I made, and then I'm making it versus upcycled, which is starting from a base of clothing that already exists.
Yeah.
And so I would just like those two things to be that's it.
Yeah.
Those two.
That's perfect. I love that. Well, I will, of course, put all the links in the show notes so people can get their custom suits from you, help you sell those bandanas, do all the things. If there is, I don't know, someone that's maybe going through this transition that you've been going through the last year and really trying to figure out how to get back to the root of their business or that core kind of foundation of why they started and they feel like they've gotten off track. Is there anything that you'd want to share from your experience that you're just like, this would be something like some advice I would give to somebody that feels like their business has become something other than what they want it to be?
Yeah, I think it's okay to stop. Like, it's absolutely okay to stop and it's okay to pivot. Like what we talked about before, like we are the ones standing in our way, and it can be really scary to say goodbye to a certain dollar amount, but you're only saying goodbye to it for a temporary amount of time. Like you got yourself there to that, so you can get yourself there again. But I think it feels more true to who you are for it to be what you want it to be, especially when you're in a small business. You know, you started that for you and you're selling you in a way. And so if it's not you, then what are we doing? What are we even doing?
That is so perfectly said. I feel like couldn't have said it better myself. So I think that is an amazing way to end this. I appreciate you being so like open and honest and just sharing your journey, which I know is not always easy to do because I don't know about you, but when we look around at everybody on social media, it just always seems like everyone has their shit together and like I'm the only one that doesn't. And I'm not saying you feel that way, but I just think that there is this comparison game that we play and it stops us from sometimes following our truth and what we really want. And so I just appreciate you being so open about your journey.
You are so welcome.
All right, I'm going to share all of your links in the show notes so everybody can find you. But just to verbally say it, where can people find you on Instagram and all the places?
Yeah, if you want the really fun content, you can find me on TikTok at Velvet Outlaw. And then the more refined aesthetic stuff is on Instagram at velvet.outlaw. And then my website where you can buy all my ready to wear items is velvetoutlaw.com.
Awesome. All right. I am so excited to share this with everybody. Thank you for being here. You're the best.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, friend, quick question for you. Are you feeling stuck with how to get your brand to stand out on Faire? I'm asking you because as a buyer myself, I can tell you that there are just so many brands out there vying for the attention of these buyers, but I know that your brand has something so special and it needs to be seen. I put together a private podcast for you that goes deeper into what buyers are really looking for on the Faire platform and how you can stand out from the crowd to grow your wholesale business and really land those dream buyers. So if this resonates with you, head to the link in the show notes for instant access. Thanks so much for spending some time with me today. If you are loving the show, I would be so beyond grateful if you would rate and review the podcast and share it with one of your biz besties to help spread the word. I hope that you absolutely crush your sales this week. I'll be back to chat with you next Monday.